lot of people ask about depression or, feeling very anxious. So what are the classical symptoms that you might be suffering from depression? Because I might not know. I might just be feeling upset one day and I might feel, oh, I'm depressed. Or I might be feeling upset for 10 days and I might say, no, I'm not depressed because I don't want to accept it. So it's a little confusing.
So usually in the diagnostic criteria that we use in the Western part of the world, we say if somebody's experiencing some of the following things that I'm going to say for about 2 weeks, that's an indicator that you've got depression. You're suffering or you're experiencing depression. So some of the symptoms include feeling completely hopeless about your life at present and the future, a lack of enjoyment and pleasure of everyday things that you used to enjoy, feeling disconnected from people, friends and family, thinking slightly negatively about your situation as well as your future, feeling a bit hopeless, as I've mentioned. Some of the physical symptoms is sleep problems or eating too much, lack of exercise and sometimes moving very slowly. Memory and concentration problems tends to be also the case. And finally, one of the other very risky situations is when somebody feels really suicidal. They feel like, actually, it's better if I die, or they have thoughts of killing themselves. Those are definitely the symptoms to watch out for, when you're feeling hopeless, when you're feeling suicidal, when you're feeling very unhappy, sad and tearful, and you just don't see any happiness in the world.
So if I am living with my family, if I realize that somebody else in my family is going through this, sometimes if I am going through this, I might not even realize that I'm upset or, I'm not interested in anything else anymore.
Absolutely.
And I'm sad or whatever the symptoms that you said. But if a family member notices something like that, what are the classical signs that a third person can notice?
I think one of the things you might be able to notice is the person is withdrawn, so they're very quiet or they get upset very quickly. They respond in a way that feels a bit too exaggerated.
Right.
So you said something they didn't like, but they reacted a bit too quickly, with anger maybe. And sometimes they're disengaged, so they're withdrawn, they stay by themselves, they don't go out a lot, they don't really speak much, or you see them crying for no reason, and you see changes in the way they eat. They just don't have any pleasure in eating, or they sleep till really late in the morning, or they can't really sleep very well. If you notice some of those things, it's very important that you have something to support them and get them to actually go to the GP or make an appointment or make a self-referral to your local psychology service. Just noticing if your family member is so unhappy and there is those physical changes that are happening, I would act.
Right. So would you suggest that you speak to your family member first and then try and get them to see a GP, and if they're not listening, then what do you do?
I think it would be great if you have a supportive family and you can speak to your family members first, but sometimes problems are emerging in the family, and by speaking to them it might actually make it bigger, So I think depending on situation, if there is risk in the family, say if there is any form of abuse or violence, domestic violence, then it's probably best not to talk to the family member and actually go and speak to the GP first. But actually in most cases is really, our therapy actually works better if families are involved, together to support one another, because that's the environment you're living in, and if that environment isn't helpful, it's really difficult to actually change your life, and it's difficult to be happy. So I would really recommend speaking to families, and your partner especially, and if you're a child, speaking to your parents, and parents asking children, how do you feel, how's school, and just making a real effort to find out how they're feeling inside. We always encourage family therapy is based on actually families work together. They're in a system, to change. We need everybody to change.
I have Mohini on the phone who wishes to speak with you. Hello, Mohini.
Hi.
Hi, welcome on Z Companion, Mohini. What do you want to ask my guest today?
I want to ask a question to the doctor. Like, my mother was in depression a few years ago, but now she's not anymore in depression, but she talks non-stop. Or she's quiet, or she's laughing, or she talks non-stop.
How old is she?
How old is she?
Around 58, 57.
Okay, so she's somebody we call somebody who's reaching older adult stage. With older adults, there is other things that may occur and may happen. And we often get older adults to be assessed in memory clinics or older adult clinics. There's services out there that may show that actually older people around that age are transitioning into a different life cycle. They've retired, or the older role have changed. And it may be that dementia may be a problem, memory problems, those kind of
Like
things.
sorry to interrupt you, but she talks most of the time when she was in the school, when she was a teenager, not her after marriage or about her children.
So she used to
Like
talk a
when
lot.
she was more young.
So she used to talk a lot when she was younger, not anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you think is she showing any signs of sadness, withdrawing?